I knew I would like it, but I really didn't think once I had it in my hands, I would love the ergonomics of this as much as I do. The Australian-based company Blackmagic Design often is one that listens to its customers, releasing constant innovations and updates to their DaVinci Resolve software, and their brand new Blackmagic camera app that has completely taken over as arguably the best pro video app for iPhone. And usually when bugs happen or issues arise in their products, they are one of the faster companies to come out with a fix or update. But there seems to be a line of products that they consistently kind of ignore all of our feedback. Not much of a surprise, the Pocket Cinema camera lineup. By the way, this is my last video of the year. Happy New Year to everyone. And for the celebration of the last couple of days of the year, I'm doing 80% off everything on my website. So all my DaVinci Resolve, my Blackmagic camera, my iPhone filmmaking guides are all marked down 50%. And if you use the code at the top of the website, you get an additional 30%. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined this year. You all are awesome. Okay, I gotta preface this video. I have a fantastic relationship with Blackmagic. And I wanna say that relationship is pretty genuine because although they have been amazing at sending me cameras for a couple weeks to review and play around with. Speaking of, they sent me an updated version of the 12K that has a couple minor differences from the old one. Can't wait to do an updated review in the new year for this. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on this beauty. But I've never once been paid for any reviews, any testing, nothing. No money has gone from Blackmagic to me. It's been quite the reverse. But as someone who has owned both the Blackmagic Pocket 4K, the 6K, have used the 6K full frame, and since day one an owner of the 6K Pro, I'd like to say I'm qualified to be among the people who can talk about the concerns about ergonomics, screen flexibility, and battery life. But does this mysterious package have inside potentially a problem solver? At first glance, this looks like a regular Pocket 6K, but no. Inside, I'm terrible at this. This is why I don't do unboxings. So there's this company called PodTech, and their first kind of mod design that they came out with is this little guy. If you saw, I did a video on kind of the announcement, and a couple other creators have made videos on it. So to be clear, this is not something you buy from Blackmagic or can buy off the shelf. This is something where you take your Pocket 6K, you buy this mod kit, and then you install this modification yourself, which according to their instructions is relatively simple. There may be a potential for sending in your camera to have someone there do the modification. I'm a little gray on those details as of right now, so mostly it's going to be something that you purchase the mod kit. They currently have a Kickstarter, which you can of course go and support in the link in the description. But this attempts to fix a lot of the issues that the regular 6K, 4K, 6K Pro ergonomics kind of have right off the bat. So what does this mod kit actually do? Well, it takes your screen that already exists on the back of your 6K, you take the screen out, you put it in this, I gotta say, amazing feeling enclosure, which by the way is made of aluminum, so it's actually a better quality feeling than the plastic housing of the camera itself. It's got this completely custom hinge that feels perfect. It's definitely not going to wiggle and like fall down and slide around, but it is pretty effortless to adjust the angle. Of course, you have this exposed ribbon cable, which we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. On the back, we have a full V-mount plate for a battery. The way this works is you can still use your internal battery here, but it uses the wiring of the DC 12 volt outlet right here. So this no longer functions. So you can no longer plug the camera in for infinite power. You can actually hot swap them because your internal battery still works. I don't have any micro V-mount batteries, which is kind of the recommended so that you don't cover these buttons. I don't think I've seen any other video where people are using a full-size V-mount, so let's see what it looks like. All right, so I got this newer 190 watt V-mount battery. Goes right to the edge of the camera. I can still wiggle my fingers in there, but now I can't get my thumb in to hold the camera properly. So many V-mounts are micro and smaller nowadays. I haven't bought V-mounts in years because I don't use them as much anymore. Something I noticed from another channel that they pointed out was that the power button was hard to reach. I have kind of skinny fingers, but personally, I'm not seeing it really as an issue. Now to finish out this build, let me just throw in a memory card. See fast. All right, extending lenses. Let's go wide. Now right away, this immediately feels very close to the exact camera I want. Just very recently, I was with Joey Helms in Chicago, and he let me hold his new red Komodo X, and that thing is just like beautiful ergonomics. And for a compact minimalist setup like this, I mean, this is just perfect for anyone who loves that sort of setup. Most of the complaints, questions I got when I made the first kind of reaction video to the news of this modification, two things that people really brought up, and that is the ribbon cable. For anyone who is used to working on like computers and stuff, who is used to ribbon cables, this is not a basic ribbon cable you would find inside of a computer that literally feels like a piece of film. Like it's really glossy, it's so thin, and you just feel like the slightest amount of movement is going to rip it. This either has a protective shielding on it, or just the type of ribbon cable it is almost feels like cloth. And I'm trying to describe it as best as I can through the camera so that anyone who's on the fence about this can understand that, like, yes, it's still an exposed thing, but I would argue that this has a better chance of lasting longer than when I see people use HDMI cables that go to recorders. Now that it's in my hands is much less of a concern. I can see this absolutely lasting years without having any trouble. Of course, the only con to the fact that the ribbon cable is there is that is why you cannot twist around this screen. So for all the people that still want to like turn around and see themselves, unfortunately, that problem is not solved with this setup. The second most brought up question is about cages. A lot of cages out there, you can find a half cage variant where it will have the bottom base plate, a side over here, and then a side that goes on top. And most of them have like two little screws right here where you could technically unscrew that part. So you remove the top part, you have something that just mounts on the bottom here, and then it would give you a bunch of quarter 20s on the sides to mount like a microphone or a small light or something. But that's about as much cage as I think you could probably do for this. To combat the lack of mounting points on here, PodTech did put these two cold shoe mounts on the back. On this prototype model that I have here is 3D printed, but on the final version that'll ship to everyone will be CNC aluminum, I believe, to probably match the rest of the housing for the monitor. So that's pretty cool. Here you can absolutely mount some lighter accessories. You could probably snap on a little light, or, you know, if you have a receiver for a mic or lavalier or something, sits really great right there. And then you can just plug that in, and now you have, you know, wireless audio, which, oh, that's such a nice setup. To be honest, this kit really does feel like it could come straight from Blackmagic. Honestly, the biggest con for me is, as of currently, it's only available, I believe, for the Pocket 4K and 6K. I would love this modification for my 6K Pro. And obviously the reason you can't do this on the 6K Pro is because the top dimensions are so different, and I'd happily sacrifice the ability to use the viewfinder to have a setup like this with the battery on the back and the monitor on top. I knew I would like it, but I really didn't think once I had it in my hands, I would love the ergonomics of this as much as I do. Again, at the end of the day, it's not really about the film quality of this. At this point, everyone understands that the Pocket line is one of the best looking images you can get for the price points. What this mod does is gives us a couple steps closer to what audiences and customers have been asking of Blackmagic for years now. And as nice as it is to have many now options of first party variations of the Pocket Cinema camera lineup, where all of them have minor differences and do something a little bit better or worse than the others, it just feels like there's not one standout hero. This is the one I aspire to save up for and buy. They kind of just feel like lateral moves. Come here, Blackmagic. I love you. You know this. And on behalf of every other loving, dedicated, loyal Blackmagic fan out there, I don't know of a single other customer base that is literally begging you to take more of our money, make a higher cost camera if you have to, and in one camera give us a really nice, ergonomic, high quality material, internal ND, full frame, ideally like 15 stops of dynamic range. Going into 2024, those are not huge asks. Most of us believe you have nailed the color science, the codec, obviously the software that you work with, like the workflow of Blackmagic is just fantastic. But getting closer to ergonomics like this is the dream. But ultimately, let's let the people talk. What do you guys think about this mod? What do you think about Blackmagic going into 2024? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everything this year, and I'll see you guys next year.